Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. So there I was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode 64. We want to welcome a new Patreon pilot this week, Bill Double L Wilson. Thank you, Bill, for stepping up to help keep those engines running.
Thanks, Double L. We appreciate your patronage.
Exactly. And one of the advantages over there on Patreon is Chuck Thompson, a listener, sent us an interview that he did with Punchy, Brian Schul, who recently passed away, our SR-71 pilot. And he talks about how he got the call sign Punchy, which we did not actually cover in our show. But if you either donate $5 or subscribe, it's included with your subscription over on Patreon. And we also try to give you an early heads up when we know we're going to record so that you are the first to know, and you can watch the live recordings on Rumble and YouTube and Facebook.
And we have a merch store.
Merch store?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, it's a spot where you can get all your So There I Was merch, including a bikini.
Yeah. On time, on target. No. So there I was. Yeah. And hats and T-shirts and drinking glasses. Not that any of us drink here at So There I Was. But if we did, we'd have cool graphics on our drinking glasses. What do you think someone should do if we mention? I've heard that occasionally we'll use an acronym in this show.
We have a glossary.
People may not be familiar.
We have a glossary that explains acronyms. And if you hear an acronym that we haven't explained, please reach out to us. You can catch us at our emails, fig@sothereiwas.us or repeat@sothereiwas.us and say, hey, you skipped an acronym. What the hell does this mean? And we'll take care of that for you.
Right. And especially if you've got a helicopter question, write to sticks@sothereiwas.us. He loves talking about those whirling death traps. I don't know. And lastly, hey, could you rate us on Apple Podcasts? Give us 5 stars and write us a nice review, please. If you've got a cruddy review, send that over to someone else that you don't like.
Yeah, and share the show. Share the show to your friends.
Absolutely. It isn't that hard. Especially if you have a Facebook page, share our links, please, on your Facebook page so other folks can see the fun stories that you're listening to on this show.
And one final bit of business before we get to the show this week. We have exciting news for this week's episode of the So There I Was podcast. First, we have a promo swap with the Hard Landings podcast, and our sponsor is none other than HelloFresh. Head over to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas50 and use code SoThereIWas50 for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Stay tuned, because we'll be talking about this amazing offer in more detail during the show.
Fig, I don't know about you. This was one of my favorites this week with One Eye.
Entitled, You're Gonna Have to Talk Me Out. And holy cow, what a story.
This is right up there with Royce Williams, who shot down 4 MiGs. The act of heroism, in my humble opinion, he should have gotten a Medal of Honor for this, and so should his crew.
Speaking of humble, this man is so humble, and he refuses to be acknowledged as a hero. But after you hear this story, you come to your own conclusion, but mine is he is a hero.
And then some, hands down. And the other interesting thing is he won't take credit for it by himself. He said, I didn't do it by myself. And that's true. He couldn't have done it by himself. Everyone would have been dead if he'd not had the teamwork of the Marines around him. But once again, we learned the Brotherhood of the Marines, right? That we take care of each other and don't let the other guy down.
His story is a spectacular life story, an incredible flying career in the Marine Corps, and then even after, especially when you learn why. It's just mesmerizing and also inspiring.
And considering that from high school, his path was set to go to seminary and be a Catholic priest, it's even more amazing.
That's a good story, too. You're going to enjoy it.
I thought, he's not going there. He's not going there. He just went there.
Well, let's get out of the way and let's see. Can I say the one-eyed ugly angel tell his story?
Or the one-eyed ugly angel, or the other title of honor he calls it.
The one-eyed ugly bastard.
And he considers them both titles?
Both titles of well, what's the term I'm looking for?
An honor.
Yeah, but either title is an honor, not derogatory in any way.
Don't let go of the collective.
Don't let go.
In the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fun.
So there I was.
That's how all great aviation tales begin. Repeat here, everybody. Welcome today. We have a special guest with us, but this is Repeat coming to you from New Hampshire. Maybe by the time you listen to this, not sure. My co-host, Fig, I think he's home in Kearney, Missouri.
I'm in Kearney, Missouri, just outside Kansas City. Yes, sir.
There you are. And we have with us from a week before last, Duber. He's also joining us today because he's got a special relationship with our guest. So welcome back, Duber, as well.
Welcome back, Duber.
Yeah. But first of all, I'd like to go here. And with apologies to our guest up front, I'm not trying to embarrass you, sir, but I want people to understand before we even get started just who is in our presence. Captain Ben Cascio was awarded the Silver Star for his gallantry in action in April of 1968. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that the Commandant of the Marine Corps has authorized Captain Ben Cascio to receive the Silver Star for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life while serving as a helicopter pilot attached to Marine Helicopter Squadron 362 in action against armed enemy forces in the Republic of Vietnam. Alerted that elements of the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, had been in contact with a reinforced battalion of enemy soldiers the night of April 30th, 1968, Captain Cascio led an emergency flight of 2 helicopters to evacuate 5 severely wounded Marines. Ordering his wingman to circle overhead, Captain Cascio encountered intense small arms fire as he approached the hastily prepared landing zone. Just prior to settling the aircraft on the ground, his co-pilot was shot and fell forward, retained by the shoulder harness. As crew repelled the enemy with machine gun fire and infantrymen assisted, the wounded Marines, now totaling 8, aboard the helicopter. Shrapnel struck Captain Cascio in his face, completely blinding him. Captain Cascio calmly explained the situation to his crew and used his survival knife to break the glass faces of the flight instruments, thus enabling himself to determine the aircraft's performance by feeling the needles of the gauges with his fingertips. Guiding the helicopter with superb airmanship and according to the instructions radioed to him by his crew chief and wingman, Captain Cascio safely delivered his cargo to a medical station without further loss of life. His courageous actions reflect great credit upon himself and uphold the highest traditions of the United States Marine Corps. Well, what can I say? Hoorah, Marine. Welcome.
Hoorah.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're truly honored that you're here today. But you didn't start off as an officer and a helicopter pilot in the Marine Corps.
No, I didn't. Actually, there's quite a long story before I even entered the Marine Corps that you might be interested in. My parents both came from Italy, and my father was when he came here when he was 5, and by the time he got out of the 9th grade, he had to support his family, so he only got past the 9th grade. But he was always my hero and my mentor because he was always such a hard worker, and it'll come into the story later on. But my family relationship and really had a lot to do with the person I became. And when I was growing up, we were very involved in a church. Okay. And it was anticipated that I would go into the priesthood. And after high school, I went into the seminary at Mount St. Mary's in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Okay. However, before I went into the seminary, during my summers in high school, my next door neighbor was a steamship captain for MSTS, sea transport service. And he got me a job on the steamships and as a deckhand. And I was traveling for two summers between my junior and my senior year, traveling around the world. And in my second voyage, being the youngest crewman on the ship, the deckhands took me under their wing, and in Bremerhaven, Germany, they made me a man. They took me to the local brothel. and at 16 years old, I became a man.
Oh boy.
So,
All right.
so when I came back and entered the seminary,
And they said you got to do the celibacy, and you said, "Wait, what?"
needless to say, I lost the calling because I knew what the nuns had on underneath those habits.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh,
That's awesome.
man.
Yes.
That is great. So I thought you were going down kind of an informal naval academy thing, a first class cruise, a second class cruise, that sort of thing. And nice. They took you to Germany.
No, didn't want any part of the Navy.
Right.
So while I was in the seminary, which I only lasted for one semester because of that, one of the instructors was a lay person who taught he taught English and he was a really special person because he was one of the few professors that would invite us into his home, and we'd spend more time talking about life and things in general. And the thing that I was most enamored about him was that he had been in the Marine Corps, and he had this really neat flight jacket that he always wore. And I said to myself, I want to be like him someday.
Right.
And so because of him, I left the seminary and I joined the Marine Corps.
Okay. Nice. Now, so he flew in the Marine Corps. Okay.
He did.
Was he a World War II pilot?
No. He was just, I guess it would be during the 50s.
So, all right.
Maybe Korea.
He was in Korea. So that's what got me to join the Marine Corps. So once I was in, I met my first duty station was Geiger, Camp Geiger, and that's where I met PX Kelly, who had just became a brand new captain.
Nice.
And toward the end of my tour, he asked me if I was going to re-enlist, and I was unsure. And he said, "Tell you what, I think what you should do is stay in the reserves, go to college, and come back as an officer." So I took it as advice, and I went back to college, finished up at Bridgeport. They had a reserve unit up there, and at the end of my tour, I was commissioned as second lieutenant.
Nice.
And my orders were to flight school. Now, I had never wanted to go to flight school. I never asked to go to flight school. In fact, I really had no desire to fly an airplane. I had never been in an airplane except to jump out of one. So I had quite a few fighter jumps, but I thought I was going to go back to infantry. And my orders were to flight school, and I went kicking and screaming because I didn't want any part of flying airplanes. So you're one of those guys
with more takeoffs than landings. And
that's right. I single-handedly disproved that theory that the number of your takeoffs should equal the number of your landings.
Hey,
So in flight school, I found that I didn't do too well in the classroom, but I did pretty well with the hands-on and flying. But I got through it, and
Hey,
a lot
then
had
what year was that? 64 or 65? You were in flight
60
school.
64.
Okay.
64.
and I'd like to take, sorry to break for just a second. You mentioned a gentleman by name earlier, and for those that are not Marines, although everybody should know him, but those that are not Marines, Fig, do you remember this guy, Paul Xavier Kelly? What was so special about that guy?
Well, here's why I remember him. In school, he was the commandant of the Marine Corps.
Yes. Yeah. And a great guy. I met him on several occasions down at LZ Bluebird, I think it was. Is that right, Duber? Or is it Bluebird where you guys did the combined arms? So I'm getting the thumbs up. He's there you are. Yeah. So we go to LZ Bluebird with the Hawk missiles, and they do the combined arms exercise and bring the helicopters in and repel Marines out of the helicopters and that sort of thing. And on 2 or 3 occasions, I met General Kelly as he was hosting VIPs at LZ Bluebird down in Camp Lejeune. And just a genuinely warm and pleasant guy. You'd never know he was a 4-star by his demeanor. But
So, hey, One Eye, was he your platoon commander initially, or company commander?
Yes.
Platoon commander? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
that's awesome. Talk about learning leadership from a great.
Yeah, even then you could tell he was going places because he was so far above everybody.
Nice.
Yeah.
Leadership oozes out of his pores.
Right.
Yeah.
So that not a bad start, not a good inspiration,
No.
or not a bad inspiration to get a good start from.
So now I have another question. What percentage of officers were basically forced to go to flight school like you were? I mean, that's kind of unheard of.
That's so antithetical.
I don't know. But I think at the time they were looking for cannon fodder for Vietnam, so they were truly,
Wow.
because I think a lot more people went to flight school that would not have ordinarily have gone.
Did they even say, take this test to see if you got any aptitude, or they just said, nope, you're smart on paper, you're going to flight school, or did they go by ABC? How the hell did they pick the guys that were sent into flight school? Any idea how you got roped in? I'm glad you did.
No. No.
All right.
Wow.
Well, that's a time. I mean, times were way different.
Yeah, I mean, how many guys were we around would give their left testicle to flight school?
Yeah.
and you got sent. You wanted to go back and be an infantry officer?
It's needs of the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
It's always
I didn't know any better.
always needs of the Marine Corps.
Well, you can sure fly a whole lot further in a short amount of time than you can walk. So,
Yeah, that's true.
but okay, so you how was flight school? What was that like for you?
Flight school was okay. I as I said, I didn't do too well on the brain work, but flying I did very well, and that really went back to my childhood because when I grew up, my family had a lot of relatives that lived really close by, and I had an Uncle Henry who lived right next door. And I always used to love to listen to him tell his war stories. Nobody else wanted to listen to him, but I used to sit on his knee and listen to. Because he was with Patton in Sicily, and I used to love to listen to his war stories. He was Patton's mechanic, and when I was old enough to look over the fender of a car, he started teaching me all about cars and engines and everything that moves. And he was such a master at that. So he ended up, he started teaching me how to change the oil and then how to change everything else. And when I was 14, he said, "Okay, I'm going to teach you how to drive." So he took me down to the lumber yard. They had a big field out there. He had an old Austin Healey 4-speed floor shift.
Okay.
And he tried to teach me how to drive. And I couldn't coordinate the clutch and the gas, and I kept on going into low speed stalls. And he said, look, turn it off. Listen to me. He said, this is just a machine. Don't let it drive you. You drive it. Become one with the machine. Make it do what your mind tells you to do. And I kept that with me all these years and through flight school, and become one with the machine. And not only did that help me through flight school, but I think when that day came, when I had that the episode, that was one of the many factors that saved my life and those that were with me, becoming one with the machine.
Wow. I mean, that is such great advice. Fig, how many times over the years have you seen people just along for the ride that they're still learning? They're like, well, right? Yeah. Duber, you too, right? I mean, you flying with guys and they're letting the machine fly them. That is the best advice that a person could give, and that you took it to heart so early is a testament. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great.
So when after flight school, my first operational squadron was HMM 162 in New River, and that's where I met one of the other big factors in my life. We had a maintenance chief by the name of Willie Sproul. You know who that is, Dover, don't you? Okay.
Maintenance Marine of the Year.
Okay.
That's right.
MCAA award is named after him.
Yes. And he was my maintenance chief in 162, and then God blessed me by making him my maintenance chief in 362 when I went to Vietnam. And I'll get into how he affected me when I get to Vietnam. So when I was in 162, we did a Carib cruise down to Vieques and Puerto Rico, and spent about a year there before I went to Vietnam. Just before I went to Vietnam, my father, who had worked himself up from ninth grade, he started working in the kitchens at Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, and worked his way up to eventually becoming the head of the commissary there, feeding the 20,000 employees per day. He also was the first president of the National Stewards and Caterers Association, which is the American Restaurant Association, and he wrote the gourmet column for Q Magazine. So when I was at New River, the Navy asked him to take a trip around the world and choose the best Navy mess.
Nice.
Yeah. So when I was at New River, the CO got a call from the admiral at Charleston asking if they would let me fly down to meet him when he came into the United States at Charleston. So I wasn't a hack yet, but I flew with another pilot, and he let me fly in the right seat, make it look like I knew what I was doing.
Go. So a hack to our audience is a helicopter aircraft commander. So
right, I was an H-2P.
Okay.
So when we're coming in for a landing on the football field at Charleston, and as we land, I'm seeing all these people are out there with the admiral and a whole bunch of Navy people. They had the fire trucks out and everything. So we land, and as I get out of the helicopter, There's my father and the admiral standing right down below me. I go to swing out, and I lose my grip, and I fall ass over the tea kettle, flat on my back. Here I am looking up at my father and the admiral, and he looks down at me and he says, "I hope you fly better than that." If you saw one of those pictures that I sent you, if you wonder who that short guy was standing next to me to my helicopter, that was my father. He was 4'10", but he was the biggest little man I ever knew.
That's awesome.
Was it an H-34 that you flew down to Charleston there? Okay.
Yes, it was an H-34. I fell 13 feet.
God.
Flat on my
Knocked the wind out of you there or what? Oh, my goodness. Holy smokes. That's amazing. Yeah, I also remember reading in there is that your mother was from Rome, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And your father was Sicilian, so your mother considered you half Italian.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, man. That's incredible. Yeah.
Duber's back.
Yeah, welcome back, Duber.
Yeah. So just before I went to Vietnam, I met my wife, Carolyn. She was a Navy nurse at a Lejeune, and I had met her on the jump circuit because I was doing some sport parachuting, and she was the only female on the Navy jump team. And I found out that she was a nurse at Lejeune, so we started dating and jumping together. And a month before I went to Vietnam, we got married. She was really something because it was like marrying one of the guys. She could out curse, out drink, and out fight any guy, but and I thought that if anything happened to me, she could take care of me.
Right.
So we got married a month before I went to Vietnam.
Awesome. And where was she from?
And she was from Jacksonville, Florida. Her father, you wouldn't believe it, was a Baptist minister, but you'd never know it to know her.
That's usually how it goes.
Right.
I have to ask. Before we get too far away from the subject. You met her doing sport skydiving. So were you on the Marine Corps team at the time? Is that how you met her? Because she was on the Navy team, or how did that work?
Not technically, because the Marine Corps didn't really have a team, but Lejeune had a group of guys that said they were the Marine Corps team.
Self-anointed team.
There you go.
So did you get your jump wings when you were in the infantry before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
That's unique. Not all Marines get to do that. What kind of was it? A recon? Was it a recon unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you weren't just any Marines. You're a recon Marine. That's you're kind of a badass right from the get go then.
So
he was.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately, Carolyn was lost in a plane crash a month after I came back from Vietnam. I was still in the hospital and totally blind.
Yeah,
that's just
and
talk about a gut punch while you're down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably the lowest part of my life. If I could have found a window, I would have jumped out of it, but I couldn't see. So. And later on, when I did gain my eyesight back, I found out I was on the first floor and I had only broken an arm. So God has a way of looking out.
Darn right, he does. Now, the aircraft, aircraft fatality that she was involved in, was it while she was, going to jump out? Was it a jump plane or? No. Actually, she had. When I was in Vietnam, she
took flight lessons and got her commercial
Holy
license.
cow.
Yeah, she was quite a person, and she was flying to Bermuda and got lost in the Bermuda Triangle. If you look at that old black and white movie, the Bermuda Triangle, you see at the end, her name is at the end of there.
God.
Yeah. In fact, after I got out, I don't know if you could see this.
Oh yeah,
Oh, your wings.
Your wings. Yeah. Got the the wife's diamond in the middle of the shield on your naval aviator wings. Yeah. That's
Yeah, my mother had that ring made for me, and that has my wife's diamond in the middle of it. I got that in the PX for $499.
Nice. Beautiful. What a great piece of gear that is, and a special keepsake, obviously. So,
Yeah.
and then, since we're on the sad subject of death, your father passed. It's been some years back now. I think I read about it. It was in the 90s, was it? Yeah.
Yes.
And I recall that you guys located something kind of special there after his death. That was an envelope, as I recall, with some gloves in it.
Yes, yeah. Gunny told you that, huh? Okay. Yeah, yeah. When he passed, we found an envelope with a note in it that he wrote in his own hand, and it said, "These are the gloves of my son, who was wounded in combat." It still had the blood on him. And he says, "When I die, I want to be buried holding them in my hands."
wow.
Yeah.
And he did.
So an especially close family. So you obviously looked up to
Yes.
him, but he looked up to you as well as a
Yeah. Even though he's only 4'10", I looked up to him.
well. That's it. I mean, physical stature ain't it in life, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So when we got to Vietnam, before I went to Vietnam, my wife Carolyn said, "Make sure you get all your shots and spread them out over a period of time, because you don't want to get them all at once." So I took her advice, like a good husband. And when I got to California, before I got on the plane to Vietnam, they had lost my shot record. So I had to take all 6 shots
All
at
over
once
again.
before I got on the plane.
Oh.
When I got on a plane, I was so sick, I didn't think I was going to make it to Vietnam. I thought I was going to die before I got there.
Gosh.
Yeah, I've got a funny story about that. I was made sick. I think it was the typhoid. It was either the yellow fever or the typhoid shot. I think it was the typhoid shot. And so I said, well, being an enterprising young man, I grabbed my medical record and I took the exact information from the typhoid shot and put it in the next year. And a year later, I put it in again. I'm not taking that damn shot again, no matter what. And then one day I'm in there and the corpsman's looking through my shot record and he goes, that's unusual. Oh, what's that? This typhoid shot. I go, yeah, that one hurts like a bad word. I hate that shot. He goes, yeah, that's weird. I go, well, what's that? He goes, that's like once every 10-year shot, and they've given you 3 years in a row. So you should probably know what you're doing before you start gun decking your medical records.
Oh yeah. You sneaky Marine.
It's okay, I'm a doctor.
Dr. Repeat. Oh, well.
Oh my God.
Did you know HelloFresh offers more than just delicious dinners? Now you can skip that extra grocery store run by adding snacks, sides, and more to your weekly order. Simply shop HelloFresh Market and choose from a curated selection of over 100 items. Whether you're looking to eat well, reach your food goals, or simply save time, HelloFresh has you covered. Their menu features calorie-smart and protein-smart options, as well as new vegan dinners to choose from. HelloFresh makes it easy to enjoy flavorful recipes that leave you feeling satisfied. With HelloFresh, you can have it all: free time and fresh, tasty food. They take care of the meal planning and deliver the ingredients so everything you need to whip up a delicious meal arrives right at your door. And speaking of variety, HelloFresh offers 40 recipes to choose from every single week. Say goodbye to boring meals and hello to exciting new flavors that will keep you inspired in the kitchen. When you need dinner fast, don't settle for delivery. Think HelloFresh. Their fast and fresh recipes are ready in just 15 minutes or less. Plus, HelloFresh is 25% cheaper than takeout, so you can enjoy delicious meals without breaking the bank. Featuring quality proteins, fresh produce, and plans for many lifestyles, it's no wonder why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Join the millions of satisfied customers who've transformed their dinner routine with HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas50 and use the code SoThereIWas50 for 50% off, plus free shipping. And if you're still not convinced, let me share my personal experience with HelloFresh. We initially received it as a gift, and our first meal was pork tacos with mango salsa. Was it ever a revelation? It was absolutely amazing, and we've been paying customers ever since. So why wait? Go to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas50 and use the code SoThereIWas50 for 50% off, plus free shipping. That's an incredible offer you don't want to miss. Say hello to HelloFresh and goodbye to boring dinners. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Have you ever wondered why the floor of a commercial airliner is illuminated? Or why the safety briefing says to wait until you are exiting the aircraft prior to inflating your life vest? Or what are those moving parts on the wings? Check out Hard Landings podcast. They cover commercial aviation accidents, incidents, explain how things went wrong, and discuss how each event has affected aviation safety. Now is the safest time to fly. Check them out wherever you're listening to podcasts. Keep your airspeed up.
So I get to Vietnam, and my first day in country, they flew me from Da Nang down to Key Ha, where I met the squadron I was going to join, HMM 362, the Ugly Angels. And I think Gunny's told you the rest of this story.
Oh, yeah, your first combat mission, as I recall.
My first combat mission.
There you go. Let me put, for those watching online, I'm going to put Duber up nice and large there. There we go. HMM 362 Ugly Angels. And that's actually, I'm thinking I'm going to make that that patch is going to be the show logo this week.
That's awesome.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, that's an awesome patch.
Yeah.
Duber, is it the same? Is it the same still today? Same patch, same logo, like when you flew?
No.
Or was it changed a little bit? He's digging.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
digging.
Yeah. Oh, he's got it. There we go.
Oh, there's the new. Oh, wow, that's much more intimidating looking than Snoopy on the on the doghouse.
Nice.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So, which is and Duber is showing us all these patches online. The beauty is that was his first gun squadron, if you recall from his show a couple weeks ago. He got to go there because one of your squadron mates was Larry. Was it Francis Larry Turner? Yeah. He said Flubber was his call sign, as I recall. Do you recall how he got that call sign, or no? Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. But
somebody does. Somebody knows.
But I remember when we came back from Vietnam, Gunny and I used to go out to Larry's house out in Iowa, and we used to go pheasant hunting, and that's when I met Duber, Mickey, and we used to sit around the table and tell war stories, and Duber would sit at the end of the table and say, "Wow, that's really something." Some of the stories were true, but it was enough to impress him. So he became the first second generation Ugly Angel when he joined the Marine Corps and joined HMM 362 as an Ugly Angel.
Pretty awesome.
And we've been close family ever since.
That's incredible. Yeah, the extended family that is the Marine Corps. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
So I'm back in Vietnam, and I met the squadron down at Keha as they were coming off the boat, and the squadron was giving a 48-hour stand down so they could regroup and get settled
And get liquored
So
up.
of course, yeah. So the first thing everybody did is head to the slop chute and get sloppy drunk.
From what I understood, it was mandatory.
Yeah.
That particular.
Yeah. Right. And that's where I met my squadron mates at the slop chute. And yeah, it was really a nice presentation. And and about 2:00 in the morning, while everybody was still drunk or passed out, we get the order to mount up. They needed an emergency insert. I think they had to insert a battalion of South Vietnamese up near Da Nang. I don't know how far it was, maybe 40 miles north. And we had to join another squadron. And so everybody runs out to the aircraft and say, we didn't have any pre-brief or anything. You're flying with you. You're flying with him. I'm flying with you.
Like picking teams in the 8th grade, huh?
Yeah. So I ended up in the last aircraft and taken off, and I'm watching this clusterfuck take off, and everybody's
Technical term indeed.
but very descriptive. And as they take off, everybody's sort of trying to fly formation, but not too well, and and every once in a while you see somebody fall off because they fell asleep or they passed out, and all of a sudden they come back in because the co-pilot grabbed it back, brought it back in, and luckily nobody was injured or killed, and we made it up and back without any losses. But that was my first flight and introduction.
Nice. And that was May of 67? Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to the Ugly Angels. Get your ass in the helicopter and go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And try not to kill anybody while you're doing it. Oh, man.
Well,
Right.
it's just a miracle that you guys all made it there and back. You got the mission done, and nobody
it
got
was.
hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. God looks after imbeciles and drunks.
Boy, don't I know it.
And sometimes both at the same time. So
Yeah.
Amen.
So that was my first flight.
now you guys didn't take any fire on that flight, though, right? Okay.
No, none. No. Thank God.
Yeah. Do you remember your first flight where you went into an LZ and they were actually putting lead in your direction?
Oh yes, yeah. I got shot down 3 times while I was there.
Gosh.
Only 3? Yeah, shot down 3 and shot up once, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So
The first time that I got shot down, we had caught some fire coming out of the zone, and the engine quit, and I had to make an emergency landing in a group of trees, and as I hit the trees, I put my hand up to brace myself, and the window slammed shut on my thumb and took my thumbnail off. That hurt like a son of a bitch. Like, if you ever get your hand caught in a car door, you know what it feels like. It hurt worse than when I actually got hit, and it bled like a son of a bitch. So when I got back, the corpsman bandaged up my thumb, and he says, "Well, you drew blood under fire. You could get the Purple Heart." I said, "Don't you dare be into a Purple Heart. How am I going to explain this to the grandkids? How'd you get the Purple Heart in the war, Daddy?"
Yeah.
Lost my thumbnail in it. Yeah.
Listen, I said, "When I do it, I'm going to do it right." And unfortunately I did.
So Ben, in that scenario where you put it down, were you carrying a load of people? Did you have cargo on board? Were you empty?
No, it was coming out. No, it was empty.
So it's just you, the crew chief, and your co-pilot,
and the wingman was there to come down and pick.
Do you remember what caused the engine failure? Was it shot or was it okay?
Yeah, it was shot. Okay. The second time got shot down. I was able to land. And we knew that the VC weren't too far away, so we immediately ran for cover in the trees and set up a defense line. And as I'm laying there, this woman comes walking along with a bush hat on and wanted to know what we were doing there. And it was Vicky Chappelle. Remember Vicky Chappelle? She was the from Australia. She was the photographer from Australia,
like a war correspondent.
Yeah,
National Geographic.
Yes,
National Geographic correspondent.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you guys doing here?
Just walks out. What are you doing? Oh wow!
That's. What are you doing here? That's almost a show title.
You don't, no, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Hey, so were both of the first two times you were shot down? Was that daytime? I'm assuming daytime.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what about the third?
All three.
Okay. What happened to the third time?
Nothing. I just landed in the my wingman picked us up and they went back and got the helicopter. I was up at Quezon.
It's no big deal. It's shot down and it's no big deal.
Yeah, wingman picked us up.
Your wingman got you, so it's okay. You talk like this. It's just so it's nonchalant. You're not in combat. You just have your ass shot off and you had to land in or wherever. It's no big deal.
Well, in retrospect, at the time I wasn't this calm.
Well, I guess if you don't have to force land into trees, it's not such a big deal. Wow.
Yeah. One of the things that always blew my mind, Ben, and you can probably attest to this, you guys would get shot down or you'd ball up a helicopter or you'd have an accident. What did you do immediately after that? You got right back in another helicopter and went flying.
Right.
They didn't take you off the schedule. There wasn't any mishap review board. You didn't go do a
6 months without
test.
flying, and
it's like
right. No,
get right back in a helicopter and keep going because the thought was, how do you tackle this fear of flying again? How do you keep the demons at bay? You get right back on the damn horse and go. I think my dad did that twice in one damn day.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, that's how I became the maintenance pilot, and brings me into my other story about Willie Sproul, because every time I bring a helicopter back, he meet me at the flight line and he says, "Captain, if you don't stop breaking my aircraft, I'm going to make you a maintenance pilot so you could see how we have to fix these things, and I'm going to make you fix them." And sure enough, I kept breaking them, and he made me his maintenance pilot. and that was one of the other factors that I'll get into later on what may have contributed to saving my life. Because when I became a maintenance pilot, I got to fly that aircraft in situations that you don't normally do.
Yeah.
Because you really get to feel the aircraft. You could sit there with your eyes closed, which I did many times, just with your hands on the stick and the instruments, and literally become one with the aircraft when you're doing maintenance flights or just hovering and stuff like that. And that really was a major factor in my survival, and when it became
I
necessary.
totally see that.
So I ended up flying 650 combat missions, and then I guess my last flight is what you probably want to hear about.
Yeah, that'd be good. If you could walk us through that. How did you find yourself? My understanding is you had the night medevac emergency call out.
Yeah, we were off the coast on the Iwo Jima, just below the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. I was it was my turn in the basket, and I got a call for a night medevac. 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines were at Daido, which was about 20 miles inland, just below the DMZ.
Okay. Are you sitting at attention, Fig?
I'm at attention. Are you at attention? I'm at attention.
That is a great ringtone.
You should see her, my wife's ringtone. Hail to the chief.
I'm sorry, did you say you were on the Iwo Jima at the time that you were doing the night medevac? Okay. Yeah. All right. So, so you were there. And that.
So I got the call to do the night medevac, and I was the lead pilot, flight of 2. Robbie Robertson was my wingman. And we got a call that they had 5 seriously wounded medevacs, Marines, that had to get out. It's life and death. Normally, in the middle of the night, you really didn't take medevacs unless it was really an emergency, if it could wait. But they had to get out. So we headed inland. And in those days, you didn't have GPS or anything. It was all distance and direction off of the signal from the ship.
Okay.
So we flew inland. And as I approached where I thought the site was, I told them I called for situation. They said that they had broken action just shortly before. They didn't know how close the enemy still was. I told them to identify the zone and put a strobe light where they wanted my right wheel to land.
Okay.
This way, I would come on, land on the strobe light, and cover it, and then they'd know where to load. Stage the medevacs to loading.
Right.
So I came in and I landed, no problems, and they started loading the medevacs. And meanwhile, my wingman was circling overhead. As soon as they started loading the medevacs, all hell broke loose. We received fire from 360 degrees all around. Robbie said that it looked like the spokes of a wheel, and I was in the middle. He never expected me to come out of that zone. There's so much fire coming in. While they were loading the medevacs, I got hit, caught shrapnel in both my eyes. I didn't realize what it was because I didn't feel any pain. I must have been in shock. And I never felt any pain for the whole time. But I couldn't see, and I tried to wipe my eyes, and I couldn't clear them. So I called my co-pilot on the ICS, and he didn't answer me. So I reached over to get his attention, and he was slumped over. So he had gotten hit. So I called down to my crew chief, Bob Bush, and I said, Bob, I can't see, and Larry's hit. We can't stay here. We're taking too much fire. We have to get out. You're going to have to talk me out. And he said, okay, Captain. He says, and he was loading the medevacs as all this took place. He was returning fire, loading the medevacs, and he started giving me directions. And he was also wounded. He got shot in the ass for the second time.
Because he had nothing else going on. Just loading, shooting, dealing with wounds.
Right.
Let me talk the captain out of here while we're at it.
Yeah. And he's a story unto himself. I'll get into that in a minute. So I started adding power. And this is where all these prior experiences come together. I started adding power, and I took my K-bar out. I don't know why, but I took my K-bar out and I smashed some of the gauges so I could feel the instruments. And as I was adding power, I felt that I had enough power because I could hear and feel the vibrations, and I knew what the aircraft was doing. And I couldn't lift off. Bob says, we can't get off the ground. They loaded 8 medevacs instead of 5. You're going to have to roll it.
Just an extra 600 pounds.
So yeah. So I started rolling the aircraft forward. And as we picked up speed, he kept, keep it straight. We bounced through a dry riverbed until we gained enough speed to get airborne.
Gosh.
And once we were airborne, my wingman, Robbie, came down, got in between me and where most of the fire was coming from, acted as a shield and suppressed fire. And he took over and he told me everything that he was doing, to talk me out 10 miles south to the mouth of the Quaviat River, where we landed there was a CB base there at the mouth of the Quaviat River. We landed on the ramp, which coincidentally happened to be the same spot that Gunny landed on his last landing in Vietnam.
Right. I remember that story.
Yeah. And in 2011, Gunny and I went back to Vietnam, and we went back to that spot.
Does it look any bigger than it did then? Because, of course, you didn't see it that night, obviously. But holy cow!
Yeah. We also went back to the spot where I got hit at Daido, and with a bunch of guys from 2-4. And we're standing in the middle of the field where this all took place, and this guy walks out from a distant hut. And he wanted to know what we were doing in his field, and an interpreter told him what we were doing, and he says, I was there that night.
Wow.
And we became friends on Facebook. We still communicate on Facebook.
I'll be darned. He was there as the enemy, as the opposing force.
Well, he was a lot younger then, so it was his family. I guess worked that field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. So and he remembered that quite distinctly. So where was I?
So you had just landed at the mouth of the Quaviat River with the 8 wounded Marines.
Yes. Right. And then my wingman came down and picked me up, and they sent out the helicopters to pick up everybody else. They brought me out to the hospital ship, and I was on the operating table within the hour after I was hit. I spent 7 days on a hospital ship. The flight surgeon that operated on me saved the sight in my right eye, although I didn't know it at the time because it took a while before that sight came back, and had to nucleate the left eye, which I have a prosthesis in there now. And he actually became my eye doctor for many years when I came back to the States.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
and never sent you a bill from what I read in your.
That's right. Never sent me a bill.
That is just amazing. Ben, what other kind of injuries and wounds did you have other than to your face?
That's all. Yeah, that's a minor shrapnel wounds. The arms and legs, but nothing.
Okay. So it was all on the left side. The shrapnel came from the left side of the helicopter?
No, I don't know where it came. I think it came straight on.
Okay.
Yeah, because they found some bullet holes in the map case right behind my head.
Right.
When much has come through, when I leaned over to check on Larry, it must have came right through the windshield and went up into the map case. But I guess the shrapnel from the plexiglass and everything else that came through the dashboard must have come through my eyes straight on.
Wow. And now you've mentioned Larry a couple times. It was Gunny's recollection that he died that night, but I think I read in some things you sent us that he did not pass that night, that he went on to fly a little bit more and recovered from his wounds.
Yes.
but was unfortunately
Yes.
lost later in Vietnam.
Yeah, he was lost in the midair about 6 months later. He was coming out of his zone and ran into the belly of a 46.
Ooh. Okay.
But that was his first. He was brand new in the squadron. It was his first medevac.
Wow. That's rough too. That's feet right in the fire.
Yeah. And it was Larry Houck, Houck.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you to Larry's family for his service and his sacrifice.
Yes. Amen.
That is that story. Your story. It just my palms are sweating. I've read it a couple times. Just hearing you talk about it, my palms are sweating. The hair in the back of my neck was standing up because I'm trying to put myself there, and that's just intense,
right?
And so,
well, I have a lot of people to thank for that, and I have to take the time to tell you about my crew chief,
right, Corporal
Bob
Bush.
Yes,
Bob Bush was. I sent you a picture of him. I don't know if you saw that. But, he and I are friends to this day. He was a young corporal, 19 years old, and the only corporal to actually have an aircraft of his own and be a crew chief. And it was because he was so good at what he did. He literally slept in that helicopter. When my parents were sending me salamis, his parents were sending him Simonized car wax. He had the only waxed helicopter in combat. If you take a look at the pictures of the damage to Yankee Lima 12, you'll see that it's highly polished, not the dull green that is normally on the aircraft. That's how much pride this guy had in his work. And the pilots used to fight to get to fly with him because they knew how well he kept that aircraft and how much it meant to him. And I remember before this happened, we had been flying together up at Quai San, and we were taking a break. And I said to Bob, "Your tour is getting short. What are you going to do now? Are you going to go back, get out?" And he says, "Oh, shucks, Captain." He says, "I ain't getting out of the Marine Corps. In fact, I'm going to stay here. I want to stay up for another tour because if I go home, I'm just another," and he used the N word. "I'm either going to end up in jail or in dead." He says, "So I ain't going back, and I'm staying here because people respect me for what I do and not the color of my skin." And that stayed with me, for all this time. I was blessed, not lucky, but blessed to have him as my crew chief that night. And he was one of the many factors that went to, it was all teamwork. They wanted to put me in for the Medal of Honor, and I said, it wasn't me. It was teamwork. It wasn't one person. It was all of these factors, all these people. But anyhow, I lost track of Bob for many years, and then they managed to find him and get him back to one of our reunions. And we had a very emotional reunion. And I said, "Bob, where you been? What have you been doing all this time?" He says, "Shucks, Captain." He still won't call me by my first name. He says, "I got shot in the ass for the second time, and they took me out to the hospital ship. I spent a couple of days. They patched me up, and I came back, and the first thing I did, I went back to look at my baby."
Yeah.
And he says, "My whole life just fell apart." He says, "She was completely destroyed." He said, "I went into such a severe state of depression that I just finished my tour. I got out of the Marine Corps, and I went back to Youngstown, Ohio, and I was working in the steel mills, and I didn't know whether to commit suicide or what I was going to do." He said, "But thank God my mother and my wife were very strong in the church, and through faith, I said one morning I got up and I said, today I'm either going to kill myself or going to turn my life around." And actually, he turned his life around, obviously, because he was there to talk to me. He ended up going to college, finished college, went to law school, became an attorney. He became the chief of police in Youngstown, Ohio. And the last time I talked to him, he was running for mayor.
Nice.
Now that's a success story. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you looked at the picture, and I'll have it up within the podcast as well, but I had it up on the video. I think I read he stopped counting the holes in the side of that aircraft at 500.
Oh, yes. He said, I stopped counting at 500 bullet holes.
Wasn't going to buff that out.
No.
All the wax in the world wasn't going to fix that one up. Wow.
Yeah.
What an incredible young Marine. As much credit to him getting you guys out of there that night as to you.
Oh, all of it's him.
It was true. It was
couldn't have done it without him.
It was teamwork, like you said, man. Your wingman, your crew chief, you, it all came together. Wow, what a story.
That's another recurring theme we're seeming to have here is that Marines are going out of their way not to let their buddies down. Just saying.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little off the subject, but this is when you were in Vietnam, your unit, were you involved in the water buffalo incident? Okay.
No,
that was Cook. That was Cook, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was our
Okay.
Cook. Yes.
You had nothing to do with that, though, correct?
No.
For a while, we've gotten in a theme where there's livestock in almost all our stories now.
Yeah.
He might have known Lieutenant Hungwell, though. I don't know if he ever flew with him.
Did you ever fly with Lieutenant Hungwell?
Studley Hungwell?
Studley Hungwell?
A lot of them who thought they were.
Oh my God!
Beautiful. How about you and Gunny? Did you ever fly together in Vietnam?
Oh yes, a lot.
Okay,
a lot. Yeah, he was a good stick. He was probably one of the best pilots we had in the squadron.
Nice. That's what he said too. We didn't know if that was true.
Yeah, don't tell him that. His head doesn't need to get any friggin' bigger than it already is.
Yeah, we continued to fly together even after we got out of the Marine Corps because we had restored a couple of 34s and we took them coast to coast together. And
for air shows, right? Air shows and
stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because when I came back, I spent 9 months in a hospital putting the pieces back together. And then they wanted to retire me. And I said, what do you mean retire? I don't want to get out. And they said, well, what are you going to do? You can't fly anymore. I said, why not? I said, because I could fly better with one eye than most pilots can with two. Which brings me to another story, because my last flight was in Vietnam was really not that flight.
Right.
Walt Casey, who was a pilot in our squadron, after I got off the hospital ship, I came back to the Iwo Jima to gather my gear, which they had already divided up amongst themselves, and
right.
They gave me a little presentation, and then when I went to go back to the hospital ship to go back to the States, he had the bright idea of saying, well, would you like to fly again? And I said, of course I would.
Is that? Hell yeah, you want to fly, right?
Yeah, hell yes. So I still had my eye bandage on, so I took the bandage off to see if I could see. And I was able to see black and white and big things.
Okay.
Like a ship.
So he said, okay, you get in the pilot seat and I'll get down below. So he gets down below, and Robbie Robertson, who was my wingman that night, happened to be the hack on that flight. So he got in the left seat and let me get in the right seat. And Walt Casey gets down below and had the corpsman bandage him up like a mummy. And he's laying down below on a stretcher, and I'm flying the medevac back to the hospital ship.
Flying your own medevac back to the hospital ship.
I am flying my own medevac back to the hospital ship. And God looks at the imbeciles and drunks, and I was able to get on without damaging anything. And the corpsman come running out with the stretcher, expecting to get the medevac out from below, and I start climbing down from the
pilot
top
seat 13 feet up.
pilot seat. And he gets out from below and starts unwinding all these bandages that are going up into the rotor blades. he jumped into the pilot seat, and I laid down on a stretcher.
Oh, that's
and he got out of Dodge
Yeah.
real quick. Well, if I told you that the CO of that ship did not have a sense of humor, it would be an understatement.
Oh my gosh,
He went apoplectic.
That is amazing. Whoa.
But that was my actual last flight in
There you
Vietnam.
go.
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, the upside is you didn't fall 13 feet when you're getting out of the helicopter that day, so that would have hurt a little more.
Wow.
So I came back to the States, and when I got out of the hospital, I wanted to stay in, and they said, "Well, you can't. You obviously you only have one eye," and so I went to my congressman, and my CO Walt Schauer wrote a letter to the BUMED and to the board, and where he recounted that last flight and said that if anybody could do it, he can. And that's got me back on flight status. So I was the only pilot ever to get back on flight status in the Marine Corps with one eye.
That's incredible.
And, yeah. So they sent me down to Glencoe, Georgia, where I was training the rear seat navigators for the F-4 Phantom in the Sabreliner. They had taken the back seats out of the Sabreliner and put in 4 radar scopes, and they took the co-pilot seat out of the front seat and put a radar scope up there. And you would take them up and do the same operations you did in the F4 at half the price and half the speed. And I was doing that for almost a year. But the part of the deal was I had to get my flight physical every 6 months instead of every year. And after the first flight physical, they saw that the good eye was starting to go bad so they said, you're going to have to make a choice. You're either going to have to get out or change your MOS to a Cannon Cocker or something like that. So I was 28 years old, and I figured, well, I'll get on with my life.
Right.
So Ben, just so I can get this straight, when you were down in Glencoe, were you training?
Yes.
Were you training the Rios on the radar and all that, or were you actually flying the airplane?
I was actually flying the aircraft.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was hoping you were going to say that. Outstanding.
Yeah. So, so then they,
can I ask you a technical question about your eye damage? Was it the cornea that was injured on your good eye, or what was it?
Yes, there's a shrapnel scar right across the center of the cornea that causes everything to be blurry and refracted. So I don't see anything clear. Everything is blurry. Everything is double.
Did I read that you years later, when the technology came, had some laser type surgery that helped improve your vision?
They did that on the hospital ship.
They had they had the technology back then.
Experimental. Yeah, it was experimental. The same doctor that operated on me on a hospital ship, Lorette de Mola was his name. When I came back, I bumped into him at St. Albans Hospital, and he was just getting ready to retire. And he opened a practice in West New York, where I went to him for about 25 years until he decided to retire. And all those years, I'd walk into the office, it'd be full of people. I'd be the first one in and the first one out, and he never sent me a bill.
Never sent you a bill. How about that?
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. And I want to say upfront, and actually this is from not just me, but my wife, because she read your story and she wants me to tell you how grateful we are for your service, and thank you.
Indeed. Indeed.
Thank you.
We are humbled that you would join us.
I don't know. I don't know how much time you got left, but I got some more stories.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's keep going. So that's a picture of the Twin Towers, and it's obviously in a Marine aircraft because it's got Marines on the wing there.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I took that 2 weeks before the towers came down.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, is there a date?
Yeah.
Is there a date on the picture, Duber?
That's an old date, or just from printing it
Okay.
It
today.
should be August 26th, 2001.
2001. Wow. So how did that picture come about?
Well, after I get out, I continued to fly, restored aircraft, and one of the aircraft that was restored was an L-17 that was restored by a crew chief of ours in 362, Frank Flagg, who lived in Marblehead, Massachusetts. And we used to take the L-17 around to air shows. And we had just done the Sussex Air Show on August 26th. And we were flying down into Teterboro, back into Teterboro. And as we flew down the river, that's when you could fly down the river at 800 feet and not get shot down. We flew down the river, and I took my camera out of my pocket, and I was snapping pictures of all the touristy stuff, the Washington Bridge and the Statue of Liberty, and as we turned back up the river, I wanted to take a picture of the Twin Towers, and I must have leaned as I was flying because I had no intentions of getting that wing in the picture. I just wanted pictures of the towers. And it wasn't until months later, because that's when you used to have film in the camera, had to be developed.
Right.
That picture came out. The wing is perfectly framed between the towers, purely an accident. That's how that came about. But that photo's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah.
It's been around the world. And the first photo was the first blow up I gave to the commandant at the time, General Jones, and he took it with him when he became the Supreme Allied Commander at NATO. And he came back later and told me that whenever dignitaries came in the office and noticed it, he'd point at it and say, "That's why we're there." And so it's really, but I've never sold it, never will. It's only been given to charitable organizations or Marines that have asked for it. So
L-17 is a Navion, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So then I also got involved with Al Weiss in the restoration of Yankee November 19, which is now in the Marine Corps Museum. And in 1999, the group of us got together and went out to Tucson to the boneyard and found the Hulk and traced the logbooks back and found that this aircraft had been in all of the squadrons in Vietnam, all the 34 squadrons in Vietnam, and was also on the first first landing off of the Iwo Jima in 1965.
So it's like the first, first in the country,
yes,
so to
first
speak.
in the
So
country.
I mean, so
Yeah.
how did that aircraft survive? Survive all those missions?
It just did.
Right.
Well, it still had a lot of bullet holes in it, but it survived.
Did you happen to have time in that particular helicopter? Do you know? You did
Yes,
personally?
when it was in our squadron, because I was the maintenance chief, and when it was in our squadron, I got to fly.
That's something. Wow.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
So
there's another
yes,
picture. Thank
yeah,
you.
that's over the Herder Bridge in Long Island. Yeah. So in 1999, they found the Hulk out in the boneyard. I think I sent you a picture of that, what it looked like when I. Yeah, and
That's what it looks like in the museum.
no, I'll show you better pictures of that.
Yeah, that's the rendering.
Yeah, that's the rendering.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went out to Tucson, and Al Weiss and the guys, 361 Restoration Association, bought it for $11,000, and we trucked it back to Long Island and put it in a potato barn. And it took us 3 years, 20,000 man hours, and $300,000 to get it restored and flying. And I did, and Duber's father Larry and I did the first test flight on it.
Wow.
And in Long Island, he flew out from Iowa, and I came out from Jersey, and we did the very first test flight on it together.
You remember lifting that thing into the air the first time, and how the rig was all off.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah, the flight control rig was off, and
you
pulled up into. Yeah, you tell it. You were there.
Yeah.
So tell us what happens when the controls are out of rig. What's that?
So
tell us what that looks like.
So, we both Larry and I had both been maintenance pilots, so we were very, very meticulous and careful on the pre-flight. We went through every nut and bolt and everything, and I got it turned up and went through all the tests and make sure everything was absolutely perfect. And so Larry had more hours than I, and he knew a lot more about that aircraft than I will ever know from his many years of flying it. So he was the chief. He was the hack. So he says, "Okay, this is what we're going to do." He says, "I'm gonna bring it up to 2,500 RPM, and just take it up light on the struts and see if we have any vibration." Of course, you don't want to go into ground resonance if anything's out of whack. He says, and then I'll take it up into a very low hover. And then if everything's okay, we'll go forward and take it around for flight, for test flight.
Wow.
So we go through all of that, and as he takes it up into the hover, you've never met Larry, but he's a large guy. He's rather rotund and has a very large belly. So as we're taking it up into a hover, I notice he's got the stick all the way back in his belly, and we're creeping forward. So he yells, "You take it! You take it!" So he unstraps and he stands up so that the stick is between his legs.
Funny.
And I grab the aircraft and I'm flying it.
Oh my gosh.
So we take it up and around, and he says, "Make sure you land very carefully," because he's straddling it.
Beautiful.
Oh,
and
that.
So we take it out, and I landed very carefully, and he's still got two balls, and
God bless him.
and that was the very first test flight.
Oh my gosh! So is that Duber's holding up a picture? Is that you? Is that the aircraft itself landing at the museum there?
Yes, yeah, that was the day we brought it down to the museum.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
When was that? What year was that? Did you guys?
That was October 8th, 2013.
Oh, see, I don't. So I was at the museum and I think it was.
I think I've got that one too.
I think it was, yeah. So I've seen that helicopter then, because it was after 2013 that I was there.
No.
Yeah, a lot of guys get promoted in front of it. You see it. I've got a lot of friends that have been promoted in the main atrium of the Marine Corps Museum.
That's awesome. And that's
with it right there, and it's just such a neat display.
Yeah, now the one I'm holding up here is that was right out of the boneyard.
That's right. That's what it looked like when we first got it.
So it's basically for the listeners. It is it's an H-34 Hulk. The engine's gone, the rotor's gone, the landing gear's gone, the cockpit windows are all broken. I can't think of anything more intimidating as a project to undertake, to look at that and go, I'm going to make that a flying helicopter again.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What a project.
It took a lot of love and time and money. We got it flying, and on its 50th birthday, we brought it down to the museum. I flew it down all the way with tears in my eyes because I had to give it up. It was my last flight. And interesting side story is General Weiss, who was the commanding officer of 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, which was the unit that I was in support of the night that I got hit. They had 2-4 had invited me to one of the first reunions as their honored guests, and I got to meet 5 of the 8 medevacs that I pulled out that night and their families. Yeah, wow, was right. So they made me an honorary member of 2-4, and they gave me the moniker, the One-Eyed Ugly Bastard, because they're known as the Magnificent Bastards. So now I have to explain the difference between One-Eyed Ugly Angel and One-Eyed Ugly Bastard, and try and tell people that both are very, very honorable titles. So, but anyhow, General Weiss was instrumental in getting the museum to let us donate that to the museum. So on that last flight to the museum, I had him come as a passenger, and he was able to land with us and make that. So it was kind of
very special,
kind of bringing it, full scale from Dido to the museum. So
wow, that's another incredible story. Thank you for that.
That's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, the next time I go to the Marine Corps Museum, I'm going to stand in front of that helicopter, and I'm going to know the whole story, how it got there.
Yeah. And so anyhow, the World Trade Center photo I told you I took from Frank Flagg's aircraft 2 weeks before the towers came down.
That's crazy timing.
That really is.
Wow.
Beautiful. Wow, just beautiful. Well, Ben, we can't begin to thank you for honoring us with your time this afternoon. We really appreciate it.
I have been looking forward to this for weeks.
Yes, have I.
And I'm so humbled and so honored to hear your stories firsthand. Thank you.
Yeah. And when Gunny first started telling us the story, it never occurred to me that you might be here to tell it to us in person and hearing it firsthand. So just fantastic. So, well, God has blessed you with a wonderful life, and he has blessed all of us with men such as you who will honor to write that blank check to this country and make it what it is. So thank you for that. Yeah.
My pleasure. Dober, give my love to your mom.
Yeah, we'll do. Tell Arlene I said hello as well. And as my dad used to call it, your albino crow or your white cockatoo.
Yeah, he's still there. Yeah.
Friggin' thing cusses like a damn sailor.
Yeah.
Why does that not shock me?
Can't walk in the house without being verbally accosted by his damn albino crow.
I like that. Albino crow. I like that.
Oh, man. Why does that not shock me?
I know, right?
Beautiful stuff. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a couple other thank yous we need to get out of the way as we land this plane. Thank you again for your service, sir. Thank you, Duber, for your service and for joining us today. That's special.
Thanks for hanging out, Duber.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks also to the man who helped us put all this together in the first place, Dave Hamilton over at Mac Geek Gab, Mac Geek Gab, the Gig Gab, and the Business Brain. Great stuff. We've got a glossary page. If we've mentioned any acronyms today that we haven't told you what it stands for, shoot us an email. Fig, how do they get a hold of you?
I'm at fig at sothereiwas.us.
Right. And I'm at repeat at sothereiwas.us. Repeat is spelled REPETE. And there's also sticks at sothereiwas.us, our helicopter pilot here at So There I Was. You can follow us on Rumble, sothereiwas.us/Rumble. Follow us on Facebook at sothereiwas.us/Facebook. And if you can step up and help support the show, become a pilot at Patreon, sothereiwas.us/Patreon. We have a special recording up there with Brian Schul, a.k.a. Punchy, talking about how he got that call sign. We didn't get that on the show, but a listener sent it in to us and is allowing us to share it with you. So if you can support the show, you can hear that story. If you can't support us financially, that's okay. What you can do, you can share this show with all your friends.
Share the show.
Yeah.
Share the show.
Yeah. Go on Facebook, share the links to every week's show onto your own personal page and let other friends see it, hear it, listen to the cool stuff you're getting to listen to and that we're getting to listen to. Not that what we're doing is cool, but what we're getting to hear, that's really cool. So, we are super blessed in life to be able to bring this to you. And we appreciate all the help that every one of you does to help help us bring these stories to you.
Easy for you to say.
I meant what I knew.
Who's that? What am I hearing?
I don't know. Is there something going on in the background there? Oh, well, I know what that is.
Those are the two guys that make the Air Force sound good. Those are the Dos Gringos.
They make the Air Force sound good, and they make us sound good because they let us use their music for the show. And that's deeply appreciated, gentlemen. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your music. And thank you for your senses of humor. That's great stuff. Anyway, I don't know. I think we should get out of here. And until next week, everybody stay safe. And as Fig would say, don't sit on the collective. I'm going to tell you, don't let go of it.
Don't let go of the collective.
There we go.
There I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
What is it, Fig?
It's over.
I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you.